Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video here on Phloshop. My name is Joseph. So for today's video, I'm going to be retouching this image from beginning to end. I'm going to be using Capture One and then we're going to move the image into Photoshop where we are going to finalize the edit. I'm using Capture One, but some of the things that I will be doing here, you can do in any other raw processing software like Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom, and you can still get similar results. I like Capture One just because of the flexibility and how the colors look right inside Capture One. I don't really need to do a lot of tweaking to get the colors the way I want the moment I import them into Capture One. I'm also going to be using my workflow retouching actions because I've been using it for years and I've developed a system with it. There's no image that I retouch without using my workflow actions because it makes me work a lot faster and also helps me create similar results every single time that I use it because the process is laid out and all the actions that I typically use all the time are in there within a click of a button, and it just makes me work a lot faster. So if you want to get it, check it out on my website. I will leave a link down below. Let me take a brief moment and show you guys my website. I have a digital store where I have a ton of assets that's going to help your photography game. So for example, you can book a one-on-one consultation and then we can have a conversation that is going to help improve your photography or your retouching or whatever it is you want to ask concerning photography. And then I have my popular workflow actions that's going to speed up your retouching game. I have some Capture One style spark. I have a color grading tool that takes the headache away from color grading. All you need to do is install it and then just drag a couple of sliders and you have a beautiful grade on top of your images. I even have a gift card, so just in case you want to gift someone something from my website and you don't know what to get, just send them a gift card and they can use it to redeem any product up to the purchase price of the gift card. All right, so now that we're inside Capture One, let me just quickly show you some of the edits I've already done. So this, for example, already edited. This is the raw file. You'd see that I filled in the backdrop a little bit, did some cleanup and also did some coloring. And then this is what I got. All right, there's also another edit that I did down here. So this is also one of the final images, and then this is one of the before shots. So you can see that we have the camera in there. Our background was not expanded all the way to cover the entirety of the backdrop, but in post-processing or in the edit, I was able to do that. But this is the image that I want us to work on today. So without wasting much time, let's jump right into it. So looking at the image, and because this is my raw processing software, I know that there isn't so much skin work that I can do in terms of fixing blemishes, you know, and doing some selective edits to certain parts of the image. But now Capture One also has some powerful AI tools that can help you even process your raw files a lot better and make selective adjustments to certain parts of the image. But what I like to do in Capture One, first of all, is just to make sure that I take out any sharpening, because sometimes Capture One just over sharpens the image and it just makes it look digital. By doing this, I'm just making the image look as organic as possible. Now, you'll also be tempted to think that this image is a little bit too warm, and so you go into your white balance, you know, and look for the whites in the image and click on it, and that can give you, you know, a nice feel. But if you haven't seen the behind the scenes, I will leave a link down below as well. Go check it out. But when I was shooting the image, I did want a very warm tone, and so in this case, trying to white balance the image is not exactly what I need at the moment. So I'm going to undo that and go back to this warm tone. This is what I like. This is what I was envisioning when I was capturing the image, and this is what I'm going to enhance in my post-processing. So what I will do is just bring the white balance down a tiny bit and also just add a bit of green into the image, just a tiny bit. So somewhere like that is cool. Now, what I want to do is just make sure that her skin is popping a lot. So what I will do is go into my layers and mask, because I want to create a mask to select just her skin. All right, now remember I said Capture One is also beginning to add AI and making some selective selections more enhanced inside Capture One. So clicking on AI brush right here, what I will do, and as you can see, as I hover the mouse, it's telling me the areas that it can easily select, right? But what I want to do is just select your skin. So when I tap on that, you will see that if I press M, this is my entire selection. It didn't do a good job. There's certain parts that I missed. I can just click on that and it will add it to the selection. So this is exactly what I wanted. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted a cutout of the places that I want to adjust, right? Clicking M again hides the mask. Now, what I want to do is go into my color editor, and over here, I'm going to go into the skin tone tab. Now, when I go there and select the eyedropper, I can tap anywhere in his skin and it's going to create a sample of that color. What I want to do here is just, for example, if I increase the saturation, you will see that it's increasing the saturation of just the skin. If I pull it down, it's desaturating the colors in her skin. And that's what I want. I just want to target her skin in this case. I know that it's very close to the backdrop and I want to just add a bit of depth, a bit of separation so that she pops off the similar tones going on just a little bit more. All right, so with uniformity, I will want to unify the skin tones from top to bottom or all through on her skin, and also just increase the saturation a tiny bit. Now for lightness, when you drag it, you're going to be lightening her skin, and that is not what I want to do. I love the dimension that the lighting created, and I don't want to flatten it out. So I'm going to leave the lightness at 0. But inside here on the amount, what I want to do is rather go down on the lightness. And if I go all the way down, you will notice that it is darkening her skin, making it pop, making it richer. If I move it all the way to the right as well, you can see that it is lifting it up. But I do want the dimension, so I'm going to go down a little bit as well. Now, the last thing I want to do is also make sure that the hues in his skin, because dark skin has different hues, different shades. Even in one person, you can have all of that. But if I move it all the way down to the left, you will see that it's shifting it more towards a pink tone. If I move it to the right, it's going to do the opposite and add a bit more yellow, green tint. And that's not the kind of separation that I want. So I'm going to move it down a little bit just so his skin looks nice and rich. So somewhere around here, I think looks good. I'm also going to go into my curves, if only I can find my curves. So right there, yes. And what I want to do is just darken down her skin just a little bit, adding a bit more contrast. And in the highlights, I'm going to pop that up a little bit. I'm also going to go back into exposure and increase the contrast over there. And just reduce the overall saturation in her skin. All right, so if I do it before and after, this is where we started from, and this is where we are. Before, after, before, after. So what I was trying to do to her skin was just get rid of some of those yellows that blended her skin with the backdrop. And as you can see, now she is a little bit more separated, right? So now that we have that done, what I'm going to do now is just right click on the image, go to edit with, and I'm going to click on Photoshop. Now this is going to send the image into Photoshop, and then we can start all of the heavy lifting and the proper skin edits inside Photoshop. Right, so now that we've imported our image into Photoshop, I know that you will be tempted to just start editing the skin, but what I will implore you to do is always have a game plan. Have an idea of what you want to do, formulate that plan, and visualize it and see if that is the direction that you want to go. So what I want to do is just create a new blank layer, and I'm going to use a brush tool to show you the things that I want to fix in the image. There isn't much to do because the lighting was great, her skin is great, makeup was on point, and there isn't much to do in this image. Everything just happening in the frame is on point. But what I want to do is just fix a few little issues that I know are not permanent on her skin, I know are temporary, and just help elevate or polish up the image a little bit more. I also know that there were some flaws. So for example, I did mention this, that the backdrop over here was supposed to be expanded all the way through, but you can see it cuts off. That is something that I want to fix, and it's pretty easy. I also think I might want to fix the horizon line just a little bit. I know the mylar shifted all the way up here, and I will just bring it down a little bit. Even if it's not a perfect straight line, I just want to bring that down a little bit. The next thing I will do is just remove some of these little blemishes and lines in the image, just to overall enhance the look or the polish of the image. Now these adjustments I'm doing looking at the entirety of the image, but what I will do now is just zoom in a little bit to her face, and I'm not going to zoom in all the way to a level like this because it means I'm going to be fixated on issues that may not necessarily show up when someone is looking at the image on social media or something. And this is also not a beauty image, so you can't keep some organic textures in there just to keep the image real, just so that you're not changing the person so much, right? So now at this level, I can see that, like I said, there are some temporary spots on his skin, and that is something that probably will come and go like within a week, and so I can just get rid of those. I'm not going to remove anything that is permanent in this case. And again, I'm not focusing on the little details, because when you zoom out, these are not things that would immediately stand out. So just removing some of these things is what I will do when I'm doing the healing. Maybe even zooming just a tiny bit, and then I'm noticing that there is this that I can get rid of, you know, just these little spots. I also noticed that there are some lines over here that I will want to fix as well. And zooming back out, I can see that in Capture One, we're not able to even out the skin a lot. So if you look at, let me just hide this layer for now. If you look at this, the tone of the skin in this area versus the tone here, and then the tone there, you will notice that these have a little bit more of a golden shift to them, and I will want that to be applied to this area. So this is my game plan: remove these tiny blemishes, fix the colors, and then, you know, have a color grade that just puts everything together. So that's the game plan. Now let's begin with our retouching. Right, so I'm going to delete these helper layers and then start by filling up our backdrop. So what I want to do actually is just draw around this area that I want to fix, and go to edit, come down to content aware fill. Now what content aware fill is going to do is sample portions in the frame and then fill that empty space. But you can see it's adding some of these things. I don't want it to sample from here, so I'm just going to erase those from the selections, including her dress as well, and also probably just remove it a little bit from her hair. Now you can see that it does a better job at filling that gap, and you have a preview over here to see exactly what it is doing. So as you can see, we've been able to replicate the textures in the backdrop, and we've filled it quite nicely. I'm going to press OK and deselect. Now I'm going to hit S on my keyboard to bring up my clone stamp tool, and I will sample this right here and then just paint that in a little bit more. Now the next thing I will do is go back into my brush tools and select the remove tool. What I want to do is, I can see that there are some repeating patterns, so I will just paint over that like so. Hit enter, and it should do a good job at evening out that pattern over there. All right, now with the same remove tool, I will just paint over the portions on the backdrop that I mentioned earlier that I want to get rid of. So just these areas that are distracting me just a little bit. Nothing too serious, nothing too major. Hit enter, and it should do a good job at removing those spots. Now for the skin work, I am going to use my healing brush tool, but again, I want to work on a brand new layer, and I'm going to call that healing. I always like to name my layers so that I know exactly what I've done on them, and so that if I'm going back through the layers, because sometimes when you're retouching you can have a ton of layers, at least I have an idea of what to expect on that layer, and then just go ahead and fix it if I need to do that. All right, so I'm not going to zoom in too much, but with my regular healing brush tool, what I will do is now just simply sample a clean area and paint over the blemish. Let me zoom in so you guys see exactly what it is doing. So I want to get rid of this spot, right? What I will do is, instead of sampling, like let's say this spot right here and painting over that, you will notice that it brought or copied that spot and put it over there. But what we want to do when we're doing healing is sample clean areas of the skin and paint over the blemish. As you can see, when I sample clean areas, paint over the blemish, it gets rid of the blemish, right? So that's all I will be doing to some of these spots. But like I said, I'm not going to be zoomed into this level because I will be fixing issues that I don't even have to fix. So I'm going to go back down and probably just work from a level like this. All right, moving on. I want to also do some healing on her face. Again, I'm not zooming in too much, but I'm just looking for what immediately stands out to me, and then I am fixing all those issues. One thing that I will also want to draw your attention to is to have patience when you're doing this. I know that it can be a painstaking process. It can be a very slow process, and you might get bored and want to speed things up. But if you are getting bored, maybe just, take a step away from your image, walk around a little bit and come back and sit down again. Instead of having or forcing yourself to finish within a very short period. If you do that, there is a high chance that you will not do a good job. So as much as possible, if you want your retouch to look as natural and realistic as possible, always take your time, spend time on it, and you will get amazing results. Now we're going to go into my workflow actions, but this is a system that I have developed myself. So sometimes I just create the layers that I need myself, but I just want to do a quick demo for you guys to see. So when you install my workflow actions, you will get two sets of actions, one called the Phloshop individual actions and one called the workflow retouching actions. The Phloshop individual actions are for people who are like me and know what they want, and they want to run individual actions. You have a ton of them. Like you have 16-bit frequency separation, 8-bit, you have dodge, you have burn, dodge and burn complete, you have a color grade, you have noise, film grain, sharpen, highlight, glow. One of my personal favorites, we have pop, we have structure, we have relighting. But sometimes you realize that in post you want the light to be focused on certain parts. This relighting action does an amazing job at bringing focus exactly where you want it to be. I also have enhanced makeup color, shadow reduction, flatten image, realistic skin texture. I have all of those. You can run each of them independently as and when you want. But I also have the workflow retouching actions that is targeted people who are now learning to retouch and don't know where to begin. So for example, if I click on run this first, you will see that it's created a stamp visible. So it's merged everything and created a brand new layer for me. And if I click on run this second, what it's going to do is create a blemish remover. But we've already done that. I'm just doing a demo for you guys to see. So obviously we've already done the healing, but in case you didn't know what step to take, run the second is telling you that you need to do your blemish or your healing on that layer. Now from there, what you can do is go on to, that is when you're done with your blemish removal, you can go back to complete set and then press play. Now what this is going to do is start with your frequency separation. So all you do is just define the radius for your blur, press OK, and it will continue to create all the layers that you need to have a complete retouch. So for example, I will start with my frequency separation. You also have a helper layer that you can use for retouching. And then from there, you know that the next step you have to take is dodging and burning. And then from there, you have to do a global dodge and burn to add shape. Then from there, you can do some color grading, and then you can do a pop. The pop has a black on the layer mask. So if I invert it, you will see that it's just made the image pop a lot. So, and then you can also paint this in places that you want. So that's how flexible the workflow actions are. And this is one benefit to it if you cop the workflow actions. So I'm going to delete all the layers that we created because I want to be using the individual actions. I just wanted you guys to see that you have all these options inside the workflow actions. So again, if you want to get it, the link is down below. Right, so now that I have deleted that and I know that I'm done with my healing, what I want to do next is go into my 16-bit frequency separation. So when I press play, it's going to start again with a Gaussian blur, and now I need to define a radius that suits the image. Now what I will do is just be clicking around to see or trying to remember where I saw a lot of texture. And I know that I saw quite an amount of texture on her face, and so I'm just sampling around to see. So for example, if I drag the radius all the way to 0.1 or even hide the preview, you will see that we do have a lot of texture here, and then we have a lot of texture on her forehead. So I will begin to increase it until just a little bit of it is showing. The reason why I like to do it this way instead of getting rid of all the texture is that if I'm able to keep some of the texture or the inconsistencies on the blur layer, it means that when I'm smoothing, it will also smoothing those textures, and it's a quick way for me to reduce the amount of textures that are present in my image. Somewhere around here I think is great. I'm going to press OK, and with my helper layer turned on, I can open that and remove the curves. So removing the curves just removes the contrast, and I can see the image as black and white. The reason why I like to do black and white is because I like to approach my frequency separation like I'm doing dodging and burning. So when I have the helper layer opened, what I will do is go into my FS, go into the blur copy, and this is where I'm going to start painting using the mixer brush. Now these are also my settings for the mixer brush up here. You can have a look at it in case you want to replicate it. Now inside my blur copy, what I will start doing is painting on that layer, and you will see that I'm not like, my strokes are not very long from beginning to end. I'm just painting in sections and making sure that the transitions are as smooth as possible. So if I do it before and after right now, you will see that we've been able to even out the smoothness, in that area. The reason why I do it in sections is I want to respect the natural lighting that was created when I was shooting this. I don't want to move my highlights into shadows or move my midtones into shadows or into highlights. I just want to respect where the natural lighting is in the image, just making sure that the transitions are a lot smoother so that it just makes the image have a more polished look. So when I hide my frequency separation help layer and do it before and after, you will see that we have smoothing some of the transitions in the image, right? So zooming back out, before, after, before, after. One last thing I will do is just bring the entire opacity of the frequency separation layer down just a little bit. So about 80% is fine. Delete my helper layer and go back into my actions. Now over here, what I can decide to do is run my dodge and burn complete action, which is going to run the dodge and the burn. Or if I also want to run just dodge alone or burn alone, I can do that. I also have a dodge and burn invert check layer, but again, we don't need it for this scenario. All I need is just to run my complete dodge and burn action. Now you will notice that it's black and white, similar to the frequency separation, and that's because again I don't want to be distracted by color. I just want to focus on the tonal transition. I'm going to start off with my dodge, and I'm going to go to my regular brush and reduce the flow to about 1%. Now over here, what I will do again is just go over the areas that I think did not blend well, and then paint over those areas. So if I do it before and after just a dodge, you will see that we've been able to lift the chest up a little bit, overall enhancing her form, adding shape and depth to the image. I'm also not going to be painting the entirety of the image, just the places that I feel need a little bit of an enhancement over here, and you can see that we are beginning to add more shape to the image. Now, coming back to the face, I know the lighting did not favor me that much in this area. And so what I will do is just try and lighten this under eye a little bit more. So maybe for that, I will, just paint over and over and over again. And then as you can see, if I do it before and after, you will see that we've lifted the shadows under the eye. I will go into burn and just burn this area down a little bit and do the same over here, so that I'm blending the transition between the highlights and the shadows, and then just making sure that everything just blends or transitions smoothly. All right, so here's before the burning, after the burning. You can see that we've, fixed the shape that was happening over there. Now the lighting looks a lot better. All right, I'm gonna hide my helper layer and zoom back out. Now what I will do is just do it before and after, and you will see that we have been able to enhance the image a lot more. I like where we are at. Now I think we can move on to the next step. What I will do is create a stamp visible layer, and this is just for a particular thing. I want to remove the line that is here, right? So I'm going to go into my actions, and then I'm going to click on merge all to new layer, press play, and what it's going to do is just create a stamp visible layer. Again, the shortcut is Shift Option Command E, but I don't want to do that, and that is why I have it in my actions, and it's just faster for me. All right. Now what I will do is go to my patch tool and just sample this area right here, and then move it to a clean area, so maybe somewhere like that. And I'll go to Edit, Fade Patch Tool, and then just reduce the opacity a little bit. Now what this has done is just remove the highlight line that was over there and still maintain the texture. So if I zoom in, you will see that we do have textures, but we don't have it to be as bright as it was before. I can also decide to reduce the opacity even more if I want a little bit more of the highlights to show through, right? So something like that, just looks a lot cooler. So now when you create a merge layer, you've essentially compiled all of the information onto one layer, and it can tend to get heavy. So what I will do is, because I know that this is all I did on there, I will draw around the selection and then hit Command J to copy that out of the merge layer. Now go back to the merge layer and delete it to keep my file size smaller. So on top of that, if I just do it before and after, you will see that everything I did remain intact. It's just onto a new layer and it's smaller in size now. So now that we have all of these things done, what I want to do next is, I think maybe now I can just go ahead and match the skin a little bit. Or there's this thing I can do as well. I can just remove the folds over here, and I want to do it for you guys to see. I can create a new layer and go and use my remove tool, paint over that, and let's see what it does. Press enter. It's done quite a good job. I can also reduce opacity a little bit, so something like that. Zoom out a little bit and do it before and after. Yeah, kind of like how it's been able to fix that. And the next thing I want to do is just even out the skin tone a little bit. So I'll create a new layer, hit B for my brush tool, increase my flow, select the color that I like, and paint over the skin. What this is doing is transferring the color that I sampled onto that area and blending it in nicely. All right, whilst I'm here, I'm just fixing any other inconsistencies in her skin tone. And once I'm happy, I will just go and reduce my opacity just a little bit. Again, I always reduce my opacity because I still want some authenticity to be in the image. I still want some of the natural elements that were captured to be present in the image. So if I do an overall before and after, this is where we started from. This is what we've done. You can see that it's not really over polished, but we've been able to, you know, just get the image a little bit more elevated, right? Okay, now what I will do to even out the horizon is I'm going to create another stamp visible layer and just select this area like so. All right, and then hit J to make a duplicate. I'll go back and delete the merge layer. And what I want to do is simply stretch this right here. So I'm going to turn it like that and stretch it. Also try and even it out a little bit. Now by doing this, I know that I've been able to, you know, stretch the mylar in the area that I want. But what I want to do now is create a mask on top of that. So what I will do is go back to my background layer and let's see if the select subject is going to work in this case. So clicking on select subject, it does a good job. I'm going to go back here and click on the layer mask. Now you can see that anywhere that is white is letting the effect show through. Anywhere that is black is hiding the effect. So what I want to do rather is invert the layer mask. And so by doing that, you will see that her hand is showing through. And now what I can do is refine the mask even more. So I'm going to use a very soft brush and also with a low flow, I'm going to start painting with black to hide this mylar effect where I don't want it to be visible. I'm also going to try and blend it in over here at the top like that, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. All right, if I do a quick before and after, you will see that we've been able to shift the position of the mylar and it's blending in quite nicely. So I will just go ahead and feather this in just like that. I'm going to do before and after again. And now what I need to do is just refine this part, like her arms. All right, so go back again. Oops, wrong brush. Okay, so I'm just painting, just feathering this in. Maybe even, I think I can actually, let me see. Okay, so I'm just going to paint. The reason why I'm not minding that I'm spilling into the edges is because I know I'm going to zoom in even more for this particular instance and switch back, make the brush a lot smaller and a little bit harder, and then just try and work it into the arm, right? This is not something that you have to do, it's just something that I wanted to do And these are things like little things that I pay attention to that I believe enhances the overall look of my image. So if you have the time, by all means, spend time on your images and get them to look exactly how you want them to. Alright, I think that pretty much does it for me. I like where it's at. Before, after, before, after. Kind of like it. Alright. So now what I want to do is just enhance the color a little bit more. So what I will do is create a curves adjustment first. And I just want to darken the image a little bit just to add more mood into the image. Alright. And I'm going to put this in a group. And I'm going to call this color grade. Alright, so I'm starting off with my curves, right? Then I'm going to go into color balance. And I want to play with the shadows a little bit and see what's going to look good. I'm not mad with this. I'm going to go into the midtones. So color grading is just, it's subjective. It's up to you and what you think is going to complement the image that you're working on. And for me, I think something like this works quite well. And as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm bouncing like left and right, trying to figure out if I want a dominant magenta in the image or a dominant green, like I'm just bouncing around trying to figure out what actually looks good to my eye. I don't have a game plan for this, just moving sliders around to see what I can do. Now, one other thing that I can also do is if I just want to color grade the backdrop to even enhance the separation, I can do that. So what I will do is go back to my background layer again and click on select subject. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to create a decent amount of selection for me to be able to work around. So what I will do is hit Q on my keyboard, and anywhere that is red is not selected, anywhere that is not red is selected. So in this case, what I want to do is just paint more of the backdrop into the frame. So for this one, I need to maximize my flow, and I'm just painting all around like that. And I will get rid of that in the dress because I don't want to affect the dress. Alright, I think something like this looks cool. Press Q again to go back to the regular selection. And I'm going to create a color balance again. But in this case, if I make any adjustments, it's just going to be affecting my subject. But now I don't want to do that just yet. So what I will do is invert the selection and rather work on my backdrop separately. So what I want to do is just cool it down a little bit, add a bit more greens, and as you can see, I can go all the way and it's just going to elevate the separation, but that was a little bit excessive. I'm just looking to stay within the same hues, but just add enough separation to make my subject pop. I'll go into highlights. Just a little bit more green. So before, after, before, after. I'll make another color balance, drag the adjustment layer onto it, replace it and invert it because this time I want to work on my subject, right? So go back to the color balance again. And with the midtones, if I start adjusting, you will see that it's just affecting my subject. Go into shadows. That works for me. So this is where we started from. This is where we are. You can see that there is some separation in the image and I really, really like it. Now to put everything that I've done together, what I will create now is a selective color adjustments, and I will start with the blacks. Now this is going to affect the entire image and just, blend them together just a little bit more. Again, I'm just playing around to see what works and what doesn't. I'm going to midtones and play around a little bit as well. I think I'm happy with the color grade. If I do it before and after, you will see that now we do have some color separation in there, and it just enhances the overall look of the image. I really love what we've been able to do so far. And yeah, I think this to me looks really, really great. What I will do for a final touch is just go back into my actions, click on film grain, press play, and you just add a bit of grain to the image. You can define the radius, I'll leave it as it is, press OK, and just reduce my opacity even further, maybe about 52%. If you feel like you don't like film grain, I can hide that one and go into noise, press play, again define the noise ratio, and I think maybe I will go for noise in this case. All right. Now this just brings everything together, and this is the end of the retouch. So let me show you where we started from. So this is where we started from. You know, the color seemed like it was bleeding into each other from background to subject. There were some imperfections that we had to fix. And by doing all those things and adding a bit of color grading, taking our time to separate our subject from the backdrop and color grading, this is what we're able to create. All right, so before we fixed our backdrop, we did some healing, some frequency separation, some dodging and burning to enhance the shape and form of our subject. And then we did quite a number of things, you know, some petty fixes, including the backdrop, you know, leveling it out a little bit. And then we also added our color grading, and then we added our noise. And this just brings everything together. I'm really happy with the image. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I will be waiting to interact with you guys. Also check out my website. I do have other products on there that will help your retouching or your coloring game take it to the next level. Check it out, cop something to support your boy. I will catch you guys in the next video. All right, I'm out.